Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us. I am so excited to be here at Octane 21. I have had the pleasure of joining Octane as a customer for years, but this is actually my first Octane as an employee. I'm Alvina Antar, CIO at Okta, and I am absolutely thrilled to be joined here by incredible technology leaders who are going to share with all of us how they've faced unprecedented challenges this year. We will talk through their diverse industries and discuss some of the challenges, opportunities, and lessons learned from navigating their organizations through a rapidly changing digital world. First, we have Claude Pierre, Deputy CIO at Engie, who's leading Engie's infrastructure and cybersecurity transformation. We also have Dr. Kimberly Marshall, CIO at Morehouse College, who is leading the IT organization and is spearheading the modernization of Morehouse's IT architecture. And last but not least, we have John McLeod, CISO of National Oilwell Varco, who is leading cybersecurity in enterprise and products. Thank you for joining me.
Hello, Alvina. Very pleased to be with you today. So I'm Claude Pierre. I'm working for Engie as a deputy CIO. Engie is a global energy player, a world leader in the energy transition. Engie is headquartered in France and operates 24 business units in 70 countries with approximately 160,000 employees. Engie is focusing on renewables, on green gas, on networks and customer solutions. So I've been working for Engie for many years, and in my last role as a deputy CIO in charge of infrastructure and cybersecurity, I've been very involved in, I would say, transforming the company and setting up what we call the digital foundations of the company. And I'm also in charge of cybersecurity.
Thank you. Welcome, Claude. And Dr. Kimberly Marshall?
Hello, I am the CIO of Morehouse College. Morehouse is a private liberal arts college southwest of downtown Atlanta on 66 acres. And we house more than 2,200 male students who we prepare to make their mark on the world. And as you stated, I was hired about 3 years ago to spearhead the modernization of Morehouse network and infrastructure, enhance the security, and enhance the experience for the students in reference to the technology.
Welcome. Welcome. Thank you. And John?
Yeah, hi, I'm John. I'm with NOV, which is an energy services company, more manufacturing. We're a global company, but we provide more of the manufacturing bits and pieces to all the energy type companies out there, not just oil and gas, but renewables, like kind of like Claude was mentioning as well. Um, we're as I stated, we're a global company, and my particular role. I do kind of go worldwide here, but I provide cybersecurity services both within our products as well as within the enterprise. Um, and then recently, we actually kind of did a reorganization and actually recognized that identity and access management needed to fall underneath the umbrella of security. So now security owns identity and access management at NOV.
I'd love to dive deeper into that, John. So hopefully we can get into that and the reasonings for that. Thank you all. Thank you for joining me. So let's start. I'd like to really talk through your organization's approach to technology and how technology fits into your overall strategy. Who'd like to start?
I can start. Just a few words about what we have done over the past few years. We have been very focused on leveraging technology to transform the company and to introduce new ways of working thanks to digital technology. Engie is an old company, I would say. It has been set up many years ago. It's not a startup. We have been moving from, I would say, over the past few years, from a siloed organization to a global distributed organization in order to try to benefit from being local and global at the same time. So getting the synergies and being able to be close to our market. And to achieve this, I just would like to mention two key factors. The first one is that we have chosen very early to go to cloud-based solutions only. And the first one was Office 365 that we have been deploying for the whole company in a very short time. And without the power of the cloud, we would have never achieved this at this scale and at this speed. The second key element I would like to highlight is that very early we have chosen to implement across the whole application portfolio of the company a single identity and access management layer to deliver secure and consistent user experience. This has been a real game changer from a user experience, but also from an adoption standpoint. So it was really changing the way people were adopting the new way to access application. So it was really key for us.
Claude, could you just talk about the specifics around how you've started and expanded from workforce through SIAM across your B2B and your B2C use cases?
We started, let's say, 5 years ago with a clear, I would say, request from the leadership team was to provide a global collaboration and communication platform for the whole company across all the business units. And we've selected Office 365 to achieve that in terms of features. And in order to provide access and secure access to all the users, of course, we needed an identity and access management layer. We've chosen Okta at that time. And so we started with B2E, and we've deployed for the Okta for all the employees globally. 160,000 employees have been, I would say, enabled. And then we moved to B2B in order to also to expand the identity and access management to the B2B applications. And we are currently considering to expand it to B2C as well.
Great. Thanks for sharing. John, Kimberly, could you also share your organization's approaches to technology?
I would say, given the last year, we definitely had to make some changes because of COVID. And although we were already making some of those changes, I think COVID allowed us to kind of kick it in overdrive. And we all know that technology is important, but it was more important after we had to all go home and remote work. So if you know anything about higher ed, remote work was not the highest thing on our list, and most institutions do not allow it. So some of the tools that we wanted to have in place should this had and it did happen were missing. But at the same time, as I mentioned, we were able to implement those tools a little bit faster than if we were not planning on, remote working. Um, Technology was highlighted more to be, it is really important if you didn't think it was before, with the collaboration. Um, but, as probably on the top of mind of any CIO is always the security piece. And so we were looking for a platform that could provide many things kind of all in one. Like we wanted our SSO for our applications for our students and faculty, but we wanted them to be secure. We wanted that a more efficient way to onboard and offboard our students and our staff members. So Okta provided that life cycle management. Um, I mean, it was just a platform that provided many of the things that we wanted, but also the security piece without taking away the experience from the students or the faculty and staff, and the security kind of working behind the scene. And and the students are still able to have that good look and feel, and manage their passwords and their MFA. And also, for our service desk, it's a tool that, we can use the universal directory to see all of our students, all of our vendors or consultants and contractors. So I would say that, you know, when all of this is over, I don't think we can go back being the same way. This is the new normal. It has to be the new normal. I think more institutions are looking at, do we actually need every head count on campus? Um, there are some jobs, of course, we're used to that in IT, working from home. But there are other jobs as well that can work from home. And now we don't have to worry about as much office space. But we want to continue to build upon those tools and putting security in the forefront. And Okta was the start of that for us, making it easier for users to work from home, and looking at some of the technology that we were not maximizing. Started maximizing real quick. It's amazing what you can do when you're under pressure, and what you can learn on the fly. We all of a sudden became a college that had not necessarily taught distance learning, maybe in a hybrid way, but not totally distance learning. We became that college. And because of that, we are now having our launching a distance learning program pretty soon, and partner with the company to you to provide distance learning for other males to either complete their degree that didn't complete their degree, or those that not traditional students. And so there were some advantages, believe it or not. We don't like to look at it that way. From COVID, allowed us to look at our business continuity plan better, tighten our security, as I mentioned, and see what tools that were missing that provided a better experience in the classroom as well as out of the classroom.
With all that was happening with the pandemic, to pivot your faculty and all your tens of thousands of students, how quickly did that pivot have to happen?
It seems like it happened all in 1 week, for IT. Um, I hate to compare it. It felt like we being IT, we're on the Titanic, and we wanted to make sure everyone else was safe, and we was the last to leave. In many cases, some of us never left and are still there, to assist, whether it's faculty, staff, or students. So I would say probably, starting in February, or by the end of February, we had everyone settled, everyone with a laptop, or some type of technology, or we were mailing things to the students. But I say within a few weeks, everything worked seamless. There was no big hiccups, where I could say if I had to do it all over again. um, of course, you will always improve on what you did before, but I'm very proud in the way, which we performed given the time frame and the technology that we had.
Great, thank you. John, if you could share what's happening in at National Oilwell Varco, and I'm fascinated with cybersecurity in the oil and gas industry.
Yeah, I'll take you back to 2015. Prior to 2015, we were like any other enterprise. Everything was on prem. Exchange was on prem. Our internet filtering devices were on prem and whatnot. And then we had this little thing, a crash in the oil and gas industry that kind of spiraled out of control. And here we are, we're coming up on, prior to that, obviously, we needed hardware refreshes and whatnot. And kind of like what Claude's path was, our first path was we can't afford all this hardware for exchange. So we started looking at Office 365, and it was just a smart move. The cloud saved us in that aspect. We didn't have to spend a lot of capital when we were on this downward spiral, if you will. And then we started investigating the cloud a little bit more with workloads and SaaS applications, and quickly discovered we needed to come up with a path for us when dealing with the cloud. And we're calling it Cloud Smart, because not all SaaS applications are cheaper than let's say, what you can do somewhere else, provided you have the team and knowledge and skills and whatnot. So we do have a cloud smart type of mentality. I know that there's some other buzzwords out there, cloud first and whatnot, but we're going to go cloud smart. And in doing so, a lot of our technology selections are really coming to fruition now on really where we need to be with our journey. And then obviously bringing you now up to last year with COVID, it just made so much sense now that when we reflect back, again, kind of like Claude's path, when we start looking at the cloud, and I'm glad that we introduced the cloud to a large enterprise when we did, because when COVID happened, it was kind of a not too many interruptions, if you will, with the cloud applications that we had already acquired.
Yeah, yeah. Could you talk about how, because you had mentioned, you had already started that transformation, right? But did this pandemic, did it accelerate your transformation or your investment in cloud adoption or cloud smart adoption?
Yeah, I would say we had already, probably by chance or accident, or maybe there was a plan, that we had already made the right investments to have all of our workforce work remotely. Unbeknownst to us, we didn't know COVID was going to happen, but we had already purchased those cloud smart technologies to allow remote work. We did have one small issue that we had to overcome, and that was, what do you do with folks that just have a desktop computer and not a mobile laptop? And these are the folks that are like, dealing with CAD drawings. You can't really put that on a laptop. And so we installed all of the agents that we would on a laptop onto desktops and have them bring it home.
Yeah. Any challenges for you, Kimberly, that you could share with us as you drove the transformation, especially at such an accelerated path?
Yeah, one of the things that that John mentioned was some of those applications that do not perform well on some laptops or Chromebooks, um, and it just made us realize that we need to look a little bit faster into our VDI, so the users, regardless of what type of device they have, they can still access, like John mentioned, your AutoCAD or your SPSS, or many of those applications that some of the students may not have had access to unless they were on campus. Most of our applications are cloud based already. We're already on 365, but we were looking into doing some hardware changes on campus with our, infrastructure, our switch infrastructure. And because COVID and everyone was gone, we were able to do that while working remotely, very seamless. Whereas had we had to do it while we were, on site, it would have been a little bit slower trying to work around people, trying to decide when you can bring down buildings and things of that nature. So we were able to upgrade our infrastructure to be a lot more, I should say, stable and secure during this time frame.
Just listening to the change, it's exciting. I mean, I know it's a hard time, but it's also an exciting time, where you're able to see the strategy that you've established come to fruition. Um, you know, I'd love to hear, Claude, if you could talk through how you shifted. You had what, over 70,000 employees, I think, shifting to remote. If you could talk through that shift.
Yeah, of course, 2020 was a very special year for everyone. And at Engie, as we are global with 160,000 employees, we were impacted by the COVID crisis. And when it came to shift to remote working, it happened, I would say, just in few days, just over a weekend. The lockdown was decided on a Tuesday. On the next Monday, everyone was working remotely, so it was very very quick, and we had to make sure that, of course, all our employees were not working remotely. Only 70,000 of them moved to remote working in just a few days. In fact, due to the investment we've done over the past year in the cloud, in the identity and access management tools, in I would say, kind of zero trust strategy, it went very well, as most of our users were used to the tools, were used to access to the system remotely without using any VPN and so on. So it works, I would say, better than expected, because of course it was not tested before. We've never think testing this kind of situation. So we were, even us were a bit surprised by the fact that it went very well and very fast. So in just few days, just having some fine tuning, I would say, but all in all, it was very good. And surprisingly, we've got lots of good feedbacks from our end users, from our managers, because I think that they were as well surprised being able to run the company remotely in a very very short period of time.
Claude, if you could share, are there any lessons that you learned throughout the past year, or any unexpected challenges that you faced? We obviously spent the entire year with unexpected challenges, but I'm just curious, anything that you could share with us?
I would say that, of course, 2020, we have been facing unexpected challenges, and I think that the lesson learned is that, and 2020 was really, I would say, a strong indicator that our strategy to go to the cloud was the right way to go. And even if it was not a cloud smart strategy, it was more. We started with a cloud first strategy, the buzzword as mentioned by John, but very quickly we moved to a cloud only strategy, and everything we do now, we do it in the cloud, and having the identity and access management at the core of this strategy is really, as I mentioned before, a game changer, because it provides the ability to go global, to go fast across, I would say, all the organization, even if you have some, I would say, heterogeneous landscape in terms of IT, you can deliver a consistent experience, user experience across your organization, and it's really something which allows the company to perform in any situation.
Yeah, so we've got cloud only strategies, we've got cloud smart strategies. I just think about what you're sharing, and I think about, like, what advice would you give to technology leaders as we look ahead to this next year and beyond, with the experience that you've had, John?
Yeah, actually, Claude said it. That's zero trust. This whole I that whether you want to blame it on COVID or not, but it proved that identity is the new perimeter, that the days of the castle and moat type networking and perimeters, those are gone. It's actually identity is that new perimeter. You have to get identity correct. And that's why we moved it underneath security. We've got to make sure that that fabric is correct across the whole company. And so, kind of like what you were talking with Claude about around SIAM, B2B, B2C type identities, as well as our own employees, we're redoing all of our identity and access management program. And I think that's the key into zero trust. If you listen to Forrester or some of these other companies, which are great strategists in helping you get to zero trust, some of the first initial steps is you got to know what you're defending. You got to know the data that you're defending. In our case, kind of like I mentioned around 2015, we had some archaic identity things that we need to fix first. So we had to fix identity prior to fixing some of the other things in our zero trust journey. But for the next few years, that's all we're doing is we're on this huge zero trust journey that our whole organization is going to be part of and kind of buy into, if you will.
John, could you talk through like what were the decision criteria of that change? And I'd like to understand that more.
Well, again, old legacy technology that we had. What happens in a large enterprise? Outages, and when we start seeing outages in ERPs, in CRMs, in factories, that's not good, and it's never good to be in the hot seat like I've been. So obviously, you build a business plan, kind of like again, I love the way Claude was saying, which was you got to get to the cloud in order to make this right. And so we spent about a year looking at all of the different identity solutions, what would work at NOV. And we did select Okta. Obviously, I'm here. Um, and it is the right solution for us. So migrating from old legacy on-prem identity solution into something newer, we're pretty excited about using a lot of the Okta components and pushing Okta product as far as we can.
Thank you. Kimberly, could you please share? I mean, just in terms of how you're looking ahead to the next year and beyond. I mean, you mentioned how Morehouse is actually thinking about having remote classrooms and continuing to expand that when that wasn't anything that was thought about pre-pandemic. So I'd love to know what you're thinking about this next year and beyond, and any advice that you could give to technology leaders.
I definitely say that we are more prepared today than we were before the pandemic. Um, and you would probably hear me just wear the word security out. It is even more on the top of our list. As John and Claude has mentioned there as well, just refreshing our endpoint security. Um, I kind of followed Okta for a while before deciding. There were companies that that we had applications from that were using Okta. So after I done my research, I was able to get a demo from you guys, play around with it. There was no question that Okta was like the identity management solution for us. We would continue to focus on security. As John mentioned, when I arrived, identity management kind of didn't have a home. And so it makes sense, as John have already stated, that its home should be in security. Is that important? With the and we are running probably close to 50 applications, give or take. And so identity management is definitely critical and when accessing those applications. And now that we're launching the distance learning program, we're going to have students all over, not just on site. So I like the AI that Okta brings with the learning behavior. And it gives us a deeper look in what are our users doing, where are they located, who do we want to access, things. We can stop them by IP addresses and things of that nature now. And just the reporting feature alone is great. So this gives us a better handle on our applications and our users, as well as provide an experience for them, not having to always rely on us to maybe reset their password and things of that nature. So we are moving forward with security. We're enforcing MFA on everyone now. And not just the critical users, but everyone, because in my opinion, everyone is critical, right? Especially when a breach happens. And we all pass information to each other. So we will continue along those lines. And now, I would say the future is now. Any of those technologies that we thought was far out is not so far out now. Now is the time to start, implementing some other AI applications, and continue to secure our cloud, and kind of survey where our users want to go as well. So it's always important to understand where your customers want to go. And in our case, that's students, our faculty, and our staff, and see how we can get them there, innovative, for one, but securely get there.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you. And Claude, what are you thinking about? I mean, you've been what I think you were at the in 1996 you were at Elio, which later became Engie. So you've spent years and years, and so I'd love to understand, the path through all these years, and then what you see in the future, with Engie.
The future with Engie is a bright future, of course, and I think one of our key priority at Engie for the time being is cybersecurity. Cybersecurity is very high on the agenda of I would say, of the company. And of course, identity and access management is very high as well, because we think that it's contributing to improving our cybersecurity posture, of course. And as we are moving more and more towards a zero trust world, as mentioned by John. So identity is key, and our next challenge in our journey is to expand the use of Okta to our B2C markets, and starting with France. And in France, we serve 11 million of customers, and we have decided end of last year to implement Okta, as there were two main reasons. The first reason was that the business, we have plenty of customers, I mentioned before. There are different type of customers, different segments, different services, and everyone is served by a different portal with different user experience. So there is a strong demand from the business to unify the user experience across all the portals, and Okta will help us to do that, of course. And the second driver is cybersecurity, as we are facing some challenges, I would say, with the existing identity and access management components that we have, the legacy ones. So there was an urgent need to, I would say, to entrust this to a trusted partner, and Okta was the logical, I would say, partner, as we are using it for B2E and B2B for many years now, and this is for us the next key challenge to enroll the B2C market with Okta, and it should be completed end of the year.
Awesome. Thank you. As I think about all that you've shared, I'd love to be able to also have you share your experiences, just from this last year, and how you apply those experiences to be more effective leaders in the future. if you could share. Kimberly, why don't you start?
Hmm. I would say, as I mentioned previously, always survey your customers. And in our case, it's your students, your faculty and staff, um, because they are the ones that's using the technology. And we are the strategic partner, but at the same time, we are the service. We are the electricity, if you will. Um, but we want to be strategic with them and not just push things on them, but listen to what they have to say and find solutions that will work for the whole college, and secure those solutions and continue to maximize what you have, before you add on. Um, because all these applications that we sometimes bring on, many of them have all of your data inside of them, and it's the same data over and over. So you have to stop and ask yourself, do we really need that? Do we have something else that can do the same thing? I would say, I would, for leaders out there, I'm sure they know this, you continue to enhance your roadmap. Um, Continue to, as money allows, continue to upgrade your hardware, your infrastructure, and things of that nature. So when something like this happens, or if it ever happens again, or something similar, that it doesn't all hit you at once, and you want to test your plan, not just implement it, but from time to time you have to put it to test, rather that's desktop exercises, um, pilot exercises with the users where you pretend there is, a pandemic, and you say, what do we do? And that way you can find the loopholes that you didn't see before, whereas you may have not seen them this time because we didn't have time, or it may have been several months or maybe years in some cases where people had a chance to test their strategy, or even their DR plan, the disaster recovery plan. So I would say continue along those lines. Never be afraid to reach out to others in your field. I do that a lot. I have a lot of CIOs, belong to a lot of CIO groups where we share information and experience. Just learning from others' experience helps you not to repeat those things, and they too can give you great advice as well. So we learn a lot through COVID, but we also have our proud moment, because I know myself and my director of enterprise network and infrastructure, we will always say, I wish everyone would just go home so we can do whatever we need to do. And we got our wish, but we didn't want it under these circumstances. But, nevertheless, we got our wish, and we were able to make a big impact within the year, given the situation. But we're happy about that, just not how it happened, of course. So we're going to continue around along those lines, integrate more AI and into our plan, so we can make better informed decisions on the fly, have cleaner data to make those decisions, and see where it takes us next. So we're going to look to the data to lead us, and see where we need to go, as well as continue to follow the roadmap of Okta. We're excited, when you guys come up with, new things or upgrade the products that you have. So we will be following that roadmap and adding to our solution that we currently have if we need to.
Great. Thank you for sharing, Kimberly. John?
Actually, I really like what Kimberly said about maximizing your products or your vendors, the features in those products. It's a brilliant point. But I'll digress just for a second. Listening to both Claude and Kimberly, it's kind of interesting how we're all on this very similar paths. We're refreshing our EDR as well, Kimberly. Um, but my advice, I guess, to leaders and kind of where we're going and where we should be going is continuous improvement, especially when you're in a large enterprise and you're especially in this downward spiral that we were in. You kind of get stagnant, and you got people that are more in survival mode and don't really want to ruffle any feathers or want to improve the processes. And so I challenge them, and that's exactly what happened with some of the technologies that we uncovered that Kimberly was kind of mentioning. We would go and evaluate our technologies. Are we even using this? Is it effective? Is it even implemented fully? And if it's not, we started yanking stuff out. We just simply don't have the resources. We may revisit stuff at a later date, but that's why I like Claude's point. I think eventually everything's going to be in the cloud. It's just a matter of time. So maybe by the time we yank these technologies and reevaluate them, maybe there's something even better that'll be out there. But I think continuous improvement should be a key for every leader out there. If you're not improving your processes and your technologies, and of course building up the skills within your folks, we're doing something wrong. We definitely need to make sure that we're always looking forward and moving forward
and challenging the processes, right? Because as we grow and evolve, like those processes are not necessarily those processes that will evolve the company's operating model for growth and scale. So yeah, I love that, John. Claude, anything? I'd really be interested to hear your advice.
My advice, maybe not an advice, but something regarding the adoption of the cloud. And my advice would be to our colleagues to adopt the cloud, to embrace the cloud, because it is, I think, the only way to go and to innovate and to go fast. And just to illustrate that, I would say that 2020 was a very special year with lots of challenges. And I have a quite long career in the IT, and it's a bit paradoxal, I would say, that in 2020, I have never been more relaxed in my career, as it was maybe the more challenging year, and I have been very relaxed because, and thanks to I would say all the transformation we have made in the cloud. So it's I think my advice would be to don't hesitate, dare to innovate, dare to test innovative solution and embrace the cloud.
Wow. So cloud only will allow all technology leaders to be relaxed every year, especially in the hardest year. So thank you for sharing that. Look, I thank all of you for sharing your experiences and sharing your perspectives and all the lessons that you learned in leading your organization through the many challenges this past year. And thank you for reminding us, right, of ensuring that we need to invest and be cloud smart or be cloud only, and make sure that we're thoughtful in all the decisions that we make, in terms of the investments, as you mentioned, Kimberly and John, really making sure that the investments that we do make, that we think through and ensure that we're using all the capability of the partners that we invest in, and we drive real transformation. And thank you for also sharing, your perspectives in how you're streamlining your customer experiences. Claude, I know, that's essential, right? In all of our jobs is as we focus in on both our employee and our customer experiences, and ensuring that they have the most optimal experiences or the best experiences, and obviously the most secure experiences. So I couldn't be happier, to have had this conversation. I hope our next conversation can be in person. And Claude, Kimberly, John, thank you so much for joining me here at Octane 21, and hopefully you enjoy the rest of your day. Thanks.